14-year-old Peter Green woke up knowing only 3 things. The proper way to put on a tie, lemon custard was disgusting, and he was dead. Sure, he knew a few other things like, math and history. Well, some history, just not his own. He knew his age, but he couldn't tell you anything about his last few birthdays. He couldn't tell you how he died. It was like he'd been reset to factory mode, left a blank screen, with no personal data whatsoever. Pete blinked groggily. "Where am I?" He winced as a bright white light shone through the blurry haze in his eyes. Slowly, colour entered his vision, and noises filtered through the nothingness. Voices and movements were all around him. It sounded as though he was surrounded by a bustling crowd of people. He blinked some more, and his eyes finally focused enough for him to see the bright white light was a chandelier. He sat up slowly, expecting pain, but finding none. He looked around, never more confused in his life, or afterlife. He seemed to be lying in the middle of a rather busy lobby. The building was grand, nearly every inch of it covered in gleaming marble. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a woman in a pretty red dress bending down towards him. Pete turned towards her, smiling, and then yelped, "What the—" It wasn't a woman, but a squat, ugly man, with long red hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a sour expression. "What the wet?" the man asked, with a heavy Scottish accent. He pulled a little at his white security T-shirt that was tucked into a navy blue kilt. The man had a large scar that ran from across the top of his skull down, over one eye and mouth, to just above his jawline. No, it wasn't a scar. It was an open wound. "Are you okay?" Pete asked, pointing a shaky finger at the man's face. The man looked affronted. "Nah, son, I'm nae alright. Come on, dinna just lie there," he said, and poked Pete with his security baton. His red ponytail swung as he pointed to the bustling crowd. "Can't you see how verstood it is today?" He looked at his watch. "'Tis rush hour, 9:15, and we hae a train crash and earthquake, and you're just lying there like 'tis your kip." "My what?" "Your kip." He rolled his eyes and said, "Your bed." Pete blinked and patted the floor. It definitely wasn't his bed. An image of grass flashed into his mind, but the next moment it was just the gleaming marble again. He rubbed his eyes and tried remembering how he'd gotten here, but another sharp poke and a yell from the angry guard interrupted his thoughts. "I'm dead," Pete said blankly. The security guard gave him a "well, duh" look and pulled him by the scruff of his neck. "Well, obviously. How come do you think you're here?" He didn't wait for Pete to answer, and asked, as he looked around, "You here wi' anyone?" Again the man answered his question before Pete could even open his mouth. "Aye, of course not," he said, rolling his eyes and pointing down a hall. "Listen, you donder down there, fill out the form, then they'll take you where you need to be, 'kay?" Pete turned to the man and looked him in the eye.